New setup, new backdrop, new set of hero reviews. It's time.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up, guys? Akariss here. I'm bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is, as you no doubt can imagine, pretty new. And not because it's a new video, but because you have a new setup, a new place. So things are going to be a bit different. If there's anything wrong with this video in terms of audio or video, please let me know in the comments below, because I know that I was working through some echo reverb on the previous set of videos, so hopefully with this new setup and new place, that is taken care of finally. With that being said, though, today's video is going to cover the November set of hero reviews from the community that I'm thankful to be a part of. This is the heroes that you guys have sent in that are part of my Patreon and Twitch community. And for those of you that also want to get involved and possibly submit your hero reviews for the month ahead, well, feel free to check out the Patreon description below, and of course the Twitch channel, or even the YouTube membership thing below me. Any of those guys are very welcome to send in their hero reviews. With that being said, I'm going to appreciate what you guys show me and consider where their best usage is, maybe provide some feedback if necessary, but generally speaking, this is more of an appreciative and ooh, that's kind of cool type of video than it is one of an analysis, although I'm sure you can probably get something out of it in terms of analysis if you choose to do so. So first up, as you can no doubt see, is Brave Lucina, submitted by Alt F4 Ninja. So this is actually pretty interesting as soon as I saw the submission, because I realized that this is not your standard usage of Brave Lucina, in the form that it's actually used as like a melee tank combined with a far save. And I believe his far save combo here is with Winter Cecilia. But what is interesting is that Brave Lucina can now act as more of a frontliner as opposed to a backliner. And this works out okay because she does technically have effective against dragons, which works pretty well against someone like Cyros, or if you just do run into some occasional dragon units. So this is kind of cool because now she can act as a front line while your far save tank is behind. I've been using this with Ashnard, not Lucina. I've been using like Ashnard as like a melee tank with Tiki, for example, and recently with Ascended Fjorm. So this is kind of a cool concept, and if you guys have a Brave Lucina, then maybe you should consider doing something like this. Anyways, next up is a submission by JTD. I felt it necessary to add a Soth in here again, because honestly, with how much analysis and how much coverage I've done at Soth, it's finally time to see it in full fruition, right guys? So believe it or not, I do have a Soth on my account, a pretty high invested Soth due to 2 bonus seasons in Arena. So here we are, and I will drink some water to that. This is very similar to a sample build I believe I covered in Hall of Forms, which combines Courtly Fan with Wind Sweep, which is pretty nice when you consider that Courtly Fan lets you get 2 hits off of a Wind Sweep. It doesn't necessarily have to use Peshkats, but I'm pretty sure Peshkats is pretty solid as a supportive option, combined with the new Lethality skill in Arena if you choose to use that. But if you want to make a more independent, Flashing Blade, Wind Sweep, Ruptured Sky does get some pretty nice value as well, considering there's quite a few dragons and beasts. But for how much we've talked about Soth, there's not really much more to say besides, hey, I knew that there are Soth fans, and I'm glad that those videos have done something. Next up is a submission by Neff, who has given us Ascended Fjorm in her full beauty, and beauty it is. Now, with Ascended Fjorm in my usage of her, I actually appreciate the fact that she is fairly unique and very powerful. She's not extremely easy to use because you have to like realize why she works. And I have a minus res Ascended Fjorm in her bonus season, and I realized that actually not having bulk was sometimes a good scenario because I was able to like bait out dancers with minus res, which really doubles down on the fact that I do feel like life and death builds on her are the way to go, baiting out dancers, taking as much damage and reducing it through the use of Hardy Fighter, Ice Mirror, and Flame if you combine her with that. So I'm not totally digging the Mystic boost, but if you really wanted to kind of balance that bulk with the damage taken, it does make sense in some cases where her weaknesses being like Brave weapons where she doesn't have Ice Mirror, or guard effects which are countered somewhat by using something like Steady Breath. But stacking her attack and speed, securing those kills, and with combining her with the right support is deeply satisfying, and I'm glad to see Ascent of Fjorm. Now, I ended up in the Ninjoran timeline, but I wouldn't have minded if Fjorm was 195, potentially core in the future. We'll see. Next up is submission by Bye Guy, who gives us Mr. Loptis. I'm not actually a dragon, but I am a dragon character, and it's pretty cool. So according to his submission here, he says that attack speed unity does get a lot of value because of stuff like Note, who has attack speed menace. So if you consider that and use attack speed unity, then he's pretty fast. Now, someone like this will likely appreciate some sort of near save support because of course he is a ranged character. So since he's not running close reversal, close counter, anything like that, then a near save combined with him would go a long way. But this refine is still pretty good, and you don't see too much dragon slaying on defense, which of course means that the damage reduction coming from his weapon, which is on res, makes him pretty strong when his attack and speed get to this sort of level. Definitely can appreciate Mr. Ya quite a bit. Next up is submission by Kura, who gives us a +7 Arate, and I think that will be +10 in the long term. He's probably waiting for the reruns, maybe a GHB party. Who knows? Either way, it is a good idea. And what is interesting out of this Arate is I still think she is a solid freebie that we've been given. And that is just because the access to the tomes that she can run can synergize really well with some other characters. And I did cover this in the Arate video, but essentially if you did use something like Roar Lion from Peleus, you could combine her with like Thunderhead Olwyn and then end up attack buffing her combined with like 4 Cav. Of course, that also works on herself using 7th unit strats where she is carrying Roarblade or Roarfox. These are all decent red like tome options. And it's kind of funny because we've been thrown all these red tomes. So she may not be a dual lift, definitely not a legendary Sigurd or any crazy legendary Lilina type of strats, but I can still appreciate that a unit like this was given to us and has some pretty solid flexibility, which can be shown here. Now in defense, you'd opt for more of an ARD type skill and probably combine her with Cavs, which would mean something like Ward Cav. But if she is a bit independent, then the Rouse, new set of Rouse skills do work really well with Blade Tomes and that Null Panic effect, which otherwise they would be weak to. Next up is our submission by Tals, and it is a Marcia. So I do believe I did cover him in a Shoju pull video, Tals that is, and unfortunately he did try to commit to Marcia and got, well, gacha'd. So F in chat, I guess. But in the long term, at least he has a solid project, has still committed regardless, and since she is a new unit, she does have access to quite a lot of stats, including not having to rely on B-Dual Flying 4, which is pretty nice, in combination with Arena or AR usage as a new Blue Lance Flyer with a decent stat spread. You can find a lot of places for her to work. And she does have a brother that I'm totally waiting for to see in the game, because it'll just be a funny moment. So nice to see it. Next up is a submission by Mike, who gives us a +10 Bunny Dragon with the dead chicken apparently in the A skill. But according to him, this is one of the most consistent units he's used, and I don't see why not, because the weapon does have some solid 40% damage reduction, which is pretty unconditional as long as you're enemy phasing. Now, of course, there are more damage piercing effects in the game now, but I don't think that matters. The fact that there's guard in the B skill I really like because I don't believe the weapon comes with it, so using something like guard, speed stacking, and just getting your doubles that way is pretty cool. I believe her weapon also gives her a lot of stats, and she has a sweet spot on her HP, which can dodge quite a few buildings as well. So cool tank option. I do think dragons are actually in a really solid space right now, since they don't really care about wind sweep. and they can, like this one in particular, could have access to both ward dragons and ward flyers, which is really powerful. Next up is a submission by Yukino, who gives us a soon-to-be remixed legendary. And I am pretty fearful of what they do here, because some of the legendaries, like Legendary Lucina and Legendary Azura, are going to be pretty strong post-remix, I would say, especially considering how so far the remixes have gone and refines on many of the legendaries. I don't think there's any real loser from our remix or refines yet. Even someone who may be pretty tame, like Ike, is still a lot better post-refine and remix than he was pre-refine remix. Even Grima, or Lin, who may not work in Arena, are still very powerful in other respective modes, such as AR. So, Future Vision 2, and potentially a Thogan upgrade to something which may have impact for all we know, or just some acceleration, slaying, who knows what they do there, and she is due to be basically the Chrom of Wind Season. And if you consider what Legendary Sigurd already does in Wind Season, plus Lucina making a comeback, I am afraid. Next up is a Halloween Sothis submission by Crobat. So again, another similar flying dragon concept here with like Mur, but this one is more recent. The difference, of course, is that Sothis can run a free A skill. So the guard effect, instead of being in the B skill, comes from the A skill. So you can use a lot of good options there, which can be any of the stance skills really, Kestrel, Swift, as you can see here, and that opens up the B skill to be either Dragon Wall, Ire, or Wrath, Dragon's Wrath, whatever. Any of those are really good options. Now as flyers, they have access to the C Rain skill, and I think that's really good. The only thing lacking here would be IOTs, but honestly, you probably could end up taking effective damage through Dragon Wall and just decent defense as it is. Sothis has always been, and I'm even talking OG Sothis, has been a character that's like never wanted to be on defense and does way better in stuff like Arena, potentially air offense. So definitely the best iteration of Sothis in the game, and thankfully isn't locked to something like defense where she's pretty bad. Love to see it. Next up is a submission by Tej, who gives us a monstrous Raphael. Doesn't have his OG form yet, but a pretty solid stat spread in the form of combining Plegium Bow, Mirror Stance, Far Save, and such. Now, I'm not too sure if Plegium Bow is getting a lot of value when it comes to Far Save, because I'm pretty sure that it won't always work the way you want it to, but generally speaking, Raphael is a solid unit to be using in pretty much most game modes. I mean, ranging from AR offense to defense to arena, I've seen him used quite a bit in different areas with a wide variety of builds. You could even run something like Reindeer Bow and then opt to free up your A skill with something like Unity. Definitely have different access to stuff like Crafty Fighter, Slick Fighter, then that could open up your A skill. That's actually the beauty of armors, is just being able to stack various effects through the A, B, and weapon. Combined with Far Save or Near Save, of course. Next up is Raydub's very nice attack stat submission of OG Hector, Resplendent, and Max Investment. Now, if anyone watched my summoning video, or even my summoning session on Twitch, or even recently some of my thoughts on Amelia, I didn't actually cover Resplendent Amelia because I think I was on a little bit of a YouTube break during that time, and I think she's actually pretty solid for being one of the fastest green armors in the game right now. Now, when it comes to OG Hector, invested pretty hard, and Brave Ephraim, who isn't actually mentioned quite a bit but can also pull it off, speed invested green armors are in a solid position because they can avoid some of the biggest threats, such as Brave Alm, who relies on Wind Sweep, or Erica, who's blue, has effective damage but triangle disadvantage and can be speed matched, or at least speed competed for, where you can like stalemate. This is really important and has shown me that someone like Legendary Tiki is effectively winning against Erica by just being fast enough to avoid her double despite her monster's strength. And that is a super awesome advantage of being able to speed stack an armor. Now this isn't near save, but far save is still solid on him. For whatever reason, his OG Armands is not refined yet, Couldn't tell you why, but Berserk Armads is still a very good weapon, and because it just gives you a lot of healing, so you don't have to rely on Mystic Boost, and you can just use Steady Breath, Slick Fighter to remove debuffs, and just Bonfire with a monstrous set of stats, as you can see there. And a nice attack stat, might I add. Finally, the last submission of today's video is Ishtar by Juan Solo. So it's just nice to see all these units, despite being maybe older, or even the refined being like older, doesn't matter. Like they're just solid units, and I could see them still being really good. Ishtar is a solid example of a character who has access to slaying and self-null follow-up effect, that she has really nice synergy with something like Windsweep. Combine that with B-Dual Infantry, Ruptured Sky, Times Pulse, and you have a character who's basically able to fire off Ruptured Sky in everything in Arena. Solid option on defense as well. And yeah, it's pretty good. So here we are. I do love how this video also featured Julius and Ishtar. So shout out to you FE4 fans. And that is going to be it for me in today's video, guys. So I am going to be covering a couple more videos, hopefully with this new setup, before Book 6 begins. Of course, when Book 6 happens, feel free to see what I cover. But I am going to, hopefully in the near future, cover videos on a new idea that I think could revive old characters. And I'm also going to give you a refresh on my overall thoughts on gacha and what it could mean for players. So just another like vlog type of video coming up soon. Those are definitely to happen, hopefully before Book 6. And with that being said, thank you to everyone who submitted here. Thank you if you support the channel. These are the people who keep all my content alive. So the least I can do is at least show my appreciation through your characters and what you do through the Patreon, Twitch, or YouTube, whatever you choose to do to support the content. Love you all. Rest of you, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Love you all. Peace.
It's over.